You're still watching Rock Bottom with Zolile, Makeleni, and I'm still with Tofara as the studio is being heated up when we're talking about activism. So, ma'am, take us through your lowest moments in life.
Okay, I'll speak about a personal lowest moment, and I'll also speak about a lowest moment in my professional life. Starting with the personal lowest moment. I think I went through my personal lowest moment a couple of years ago when I was involved in gender-based violence, where my boyfriend attacked me physically, and I found myself in hospital. Considering that I'm such a robust and tenacious person, and I advocate for other women, I speak about gender-based violence, to find myself in that situation, which is a situation where I naturally say never, it would never happen to me, it won't happen to me. And to find that I still stayed on in that relationship after I was abused, I was discharged from hospital and still stayed on for a couple of months more and continued to be the recipient of domestic abuse, has to be probably my lowest moment in my personal life.
You're an activist. You knew that your rights were being infringed. What kept you in that relationship?
I think you lose your self-esteem, you lose your self-worth. You look at society, you've spent so many years with someone, and you look at society and say, what happens next? Where do I begin? So it's the process of rediscovery that's difficult. It's very scared to now step up and step out and say, who am I without this person? Where do I begin? How do I continue on? And because sometimes society condones domestic violence, people say, look, this is something you should get past and get on with the relationship.
Yes.
So I think something that I've actually never considered personally is actually the shame that you're speaking about. So for people to look at me as a leading example who speaks for people, and then to be the person who's in a hospital bed because I've been abused, could probably be one of the main reasons why I actually didn't speak out. Then the second thing is the system is very flawed. Structures and policies. I remember when I was harassed, I was beaten up on Borrowdale Road, and I was driving, I was stopped, and I was pulled out of my car and beaten to a pulp. The police expect you, when the ambulance got there, the ambulance has to take you to the police station first. My dress was torn, I was bloody everywhere. But instead of going to a hospital, you go and report it to the police first, which I think already you've been victimized. You're hurt, you're in pain, you are not dressed well, you're not well covered up, and still you have to go into a police station and tell them what's happened to make your case valid. So already you see flaws in the system like that. So in the end, people will opt to just go to a hospital and say, let's not report the case. Then even after you go into the hospital system, trying to report it with the police, depending on who the other party is, can be very difficult if you're dealing with certain people who are affluent, or if you're dealing with a partner who's influential. You find the police system also can be quite flawed. So there are a lot of variations that frustrated me in the process of trying to actually seek justice, that I ended up just saying, you know what, it's okay, let's move on and move past it.
So what do you think should be done on those flaws that you're highlighting in? Since we're saying this new government that's in place right now, we were saying no to
domestic violence.
We're saying no to domestic violence. We're saying no to corruption, and there's no one who's above the law.
Absolutely.
What would be your what would you want to be highlighted on the flaws that you just said?
I think there are quite a few efforts that are being made in the new government to give women a platform, particularly pertaining to gender-based violence. Men and women, actually, because gender-based violence doesn't only look at women, but anybody in a domestic situation where your rights are being infringed. There are a lot of moves that are being made. I think there's interventions from NGOs and external stakeholders who are participating in making sure the law actually protects people who are in these spaces. And I think just involvement of us as community members, as citizens, when it happens to you and you have problems, report that the police were not forthcoming, report that the systems did not assist you when you were going through whatever it is you were going through.
I like it when you say gender-based violence, because at times people always think when it's titled gender-based violence, they think it's a women thing. Women get violated as well. But because
Absolutely.
of the nature of our society, I have an ego. I'm a man. I cannot go publicly saying 90 or an MCAS. But things like
course.
that do happen. So what would you say? Would you say, if I come to you, you're an activist, I'm presenting my case, would you really treat me the same way you treat a female counterpart?
I think I would. I think I would. It's time to realize that men have feelings too. Men have emotions. Men can be abused, and quite a few men are getting abused.
Let me
And
put you on the spotlight there. You think you could, or already your response shows you will help me, but not 100% the same way you would help a female counterpart.
so I'll come back and say 100%. My door is wide open to men and women
Yes.
who are going through what I went through.
Because it's a perception that people only think gender-based violence is a law that is meant for women. Men as well are getting abused, but it's because of our nature as well and our culture, how we were brought up. I cannot
Absolutely.
go publicly telling people that I'm being abused, or I cannot go and report my wife that is doing that. But frankly enough, I'm happy with activists like you who really see things differently. In your career now, take us through your lowest moments in your career.
Okay, so my lowest moment in my career would have been in 2014. I put together some financial capital to open up a restaurant. I had some savings of my own. I got some money from family members, and some friends contributed towards the business. It was quite capital intensive, but we managed to put the money together, and I opened a restaurant in the Central Business District. It was a fresh concept, something new. It was on the 8th floor of a building, so you could see the whole city from the restaurant. Excited because I'm a restaurateur. I'm absolutely in love with that business. We took off with very high hopes, but the business didn't work out. The model was correct, but unfortunately, a lot of other factors led to me failing. And that was devastating for me because I felt like everyone was looking at me and saying, look, she attempted to do this thing and she didn't manage to do it. I had taken money from family. I had taken money from friends. And so I was liable and accountable to these people. And I'd lost the money. The business was closing down and I had to face that fact. So it was very difficult for me as a person because it's not an easy thing to fail, particularly when you have people's interests invested in your business.
When we come on a third and final segment, it's time for you to really then highlight how you managed to pick yourself from those lowest moments to become this TOFARA that everyone else is celebrating with. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.